Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Link. Welcome, everybody, to the Education Policy Committee meeting. Again, just a reminder that this committee meeting is being recorded, and it is going to be posted on the NLSD YouTube channel. This evening's agenda will mainly be about curriculum and handbooks coming up, but I will turn it over, I believe, to Dr. Stoker, if I'm correct, to talk about the Northern Lehigh Middle School curriculum guide for this year, or for actually the 21-22 school year. Sorry, holy smokes.
We made it through this year almost.
We made it through.
Thank you, Mrs. Husak. So we have Northern Lehigh Middle School's curriculum guide for 21-22. If you recall, we did pass already through ed policy and also at the board level, the high school program of study. So we knew that we had some changes that we wanted to make in the middle school handbook. So we needed a little bit more time to do so. And I think we have some pretty exciting changes. So I will hand it over to Mrs. Chamberlain at this point.
Okay, I hit the right button. Good evening, everyone. Sorry. So some of the changes, of course, that just the small technical changes of names and who is taking what in the very first couple pages due to retirement. So there are some changes with that. Then when you go down through to page, I'm scrolling through so I can get to the right page. For grade 7, we are introducing next year, it's called Essential Skills and Financial Literacy. This is a special area class, which is a 45-day class, which students will complete lessons in the college career for every student, essential skills. There will be goal setting, networking, teamwork, agility, perseverance, and leadership. And I apologize, my dogs are talking. Each skill is studied in depth, and then they're also going to be utilizing the financial platform of Everify. So that's really exciting. And I apologize again for my dog. Sounds like I said somebody else. And then for 8th grade, I'm truly, truly excited. Hold on a second. My apologies. So the one I'm really excited about is the Intro to Spanish for 8th grade, which is another 45-day special. And the reason I'm excited about that one for everybody is because it really comes from the love of language from our students who have joined a language club and made it very, very successful. So those are the big changes to our curriculum guide.
Thank you, Mrs. Chamberlain. I would just add that these extra courses came about because we had last year in the middle school 2 art classes. We had a 2D art and a 3D art. And based upon some of the staffing changes we're looking to make in other departments, that freed up some space in 7th grade and 8th grade, and then we were able to include these classes. We thought it was really important to give students a diverse experience through their specials class. And I think that Mrs. Chamberlain and Mr. Hauser and the faculty did a really nice job coming up with some courses that we can offer that are going to help bridge between elementary school and the high school and bring some of the things that we're teaching as far as CFES and Spanish at the high school level down into the middle school. So I think that this guide is going to be expand the horizons of our students in the middle school. So at this point, I would just ask if there are any questions.
Hi, this is Gail. I love the essential skills on financial literacy, and just curious how that will continue to roll, or is that just a 7th grade course, and is that for every student, or is that for whoever chooses that particular elective? And then how does that continue to roll through as a continual, kind of like Intro to Spanish would be for our students going into the high school doing Spanish 1, 2, and 3, however that rolls? Will this roll as well?
Yes, it's just going to look differently. I'm sorry, Dr. Stoker. It's just going to look differently. Every student will have it. It is like a 45-day special. So every student has the opportunity to have this class. Every 7th grade student. In the 8th grade, it will be reinforced during flex time, those skills, so that they're constantly building up so that when they're getting to the high school, that they continue with the CFES and get to the point where they're earning their chords and things like that. So it is a building. It's the start in a very intensive way for the first year, and then for the second year, maybe not as what you would call intensive because it's not 45 days. It will be stretched out through the whole entire year for every 8th grade student during flex time.
Also, Mrs. Husak, as far as how does it extend into the high school, financial literacy is also going to be reinforced through Zello and Future Ready skills. And so it's a really nice collaboration between the middle school and the high school. And I thank Mr. Chamberlain, Mr. Hauser for putting this together.
And I would also add that we want to really thank Neff's Bank, because the EverFi curriculum is something that Neff's Bank was promoting and reached out to us, I think about a year ago prior to the pandemic. And they had this opportunity for us. And as we've been looking at, where's a gap in our curriculum? What can we address that, is a need? We certainly saw that those essential skills could come down further into the middle school, and that we wanted to have, some financial literacy skills for our students as well. And it just so happened that Neff's Bank had that, they're sponsoring the EverFi curriculum for us. So that's something that will be given to us for free through them. So we really do appreciate that that partnership and that resource for our students and our faculty.
Thank you. I think it's such a great and such an important class for individuals to learn, not just on a business side, but as a personal side. I remember high school, when I was in school, and my favorite class was Mr. Rissmiller's financial planning class, where it was how to balance a checkbook. Those types of things that students miss sometimes are so important, just as a general life skill. So I'm really excited to see something coming in about the students being able to learn that objective back about savings and budgeting and planning and credit card planning and all of that. That seems to be where society in general sometimes falls. So thank you for bringing that in and introducing it to our students. And I look forward to having that continue as it becomes an important aspect to our general population and students, not even students going to college or prep ready, just a general life skill that every student should learn. So thank you for thinking outside the box on that, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Husak. And I think that's what we're trying to do more of. So as we're talking about college and career, and we have our advisory council meet, and we get some feedback from the members of that group as well, we keep saying, what can we do to better prepare our students? And this is something that constantly comes up. So I think, just like you said, it's going to benefit any student moving forward into their adult life, whether they go into college, career, whatever they end up doing, it's certainly going to be helpful to them. So at this point, I would just ask for the board members that are present, do you have, or do we have your permission to move this to the board level for Monday evening for a vote for acceptance of the Northern Lehigh Middle School 21-22 curriculum guide to the school board?
This is Gary, yes.
Michelle Martineau, yes.
Mrs. Heckman?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Dr. Stoker, looks good to move forward to the agenda for Monday evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for that. The next thing that we have on the agenda this evening are the 21-22 student handbooks. So these handbooks are for all of our schools. We have the elementary handbook, which is always a combination of Peters and Slatington together. We have the middle school handbook, which is separate, and then we have the high school handbook, which is separate. For those of you who are in the agenda and clicking on things as we go through, you'll see each handbook there is in blue because we have each of those handbooks linked, but we also have a cheat sheet or a change sheet that's also linked there. So you're welcome to follow along however you see fit, but I'm going to put the handbooks up for our administrators to go through. So at this point, I will give that to Mr. Schneiderite and to Mr. Pine.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if you wanted to follow along and sort of go through the pages, Dr. Stoker. We do have a few very brief things that will still need to be changed, but those can't be changed until final approvals of new positions, etc. So on page 2 of the handbook, once a new principal is is hired for Slatington Elementary School. That will be updated. On page 3, under the table of contents, once the board has approved the handbook, we'll go through and just ensure that all of those links are correct. We don't want to go and spend the work there in case there was a concern. So certainly even by Monday night, if you feel comfortable with the way it is, we can certainly make that change. And lastly, on page 5, if there are any updates in the district office personnel over the summer. I know there's a couple of new positions, retirements, etc. So we'll wait to update those over the summer when those positions are filled and finalized. The rest of the changes are ready to take a look at. The first is on page 14 through 17. You'll see that all of the handbooks have now the same language that was added at the request of Mr. Hill. It's regarding Chromebook and laptop use. So he gave us, again, it's the same in each in each handbook. The only thing that's different in ours is we changed the font to meet, so it's consistent with the rest of ours, except for the last page, which was more of a formal page, and we thought it would look more appropriate that way. On page 26, we updated the language in our attendance section related to our student attendance improvement plans. We didn't really change much, but we changed sort of the headings so that as parents read through it, it was a highlighted section instead of embedded within. Student attendance improvement plans are something we do often. This year, I think I'm at 60 plus student attendance improvement plan meetings. So we felt that if we can sort of change the, just sort of the structure of the handbook so that it was a little easier for parents to find, that would be a benefit to them. On the next page, we added some language regarding truancy. We wanted to make sure we adequately communicated to parents that 200 minutes of unlawful tardiness equal a half an absence, and 400 minutes of unlawful tardiness equal 1 unlawful absence. Those are things that, we've just tried. I believe that might even be a administrative regulation, but we thought we'd add that into our handbook so that it's easy to find. And lastly, and this was sort of not a big change, but something that, I'm sure Mrs. Bonnick is very pleased about. As you know, next year we will also be providing free school breakfast and school lunch. So we did add that into our handbook. Obviously, if that ceases to exist in the future past next school year, we'll have to go back and re-edit that. But we also added language in there.
Mr.
Go ahead.
I don't know what page you're on for the
I'm sorry, Dr. Stoker. Page 50, 50. There it is. Big and yellow. So again, we basically added in there that lunches will be free, but we did also want to change the language a little bit. As you may know, both Slatington and Peters are Title I schools based on, the socioeconomic status of the district. And to qualify for Title I and to continue receiving those monies, we have to have a certain percentage of families fill out that form. We want to make sure that, we promote the filling out the form, even though all lunch and breakfast is free next year. So one of the things we struggled with this year was continuing to communicate that out. So we thought we'd be proactive and add that in as well. Other than that, those are all of our big changes for this year. Mr. Pine, did you have anything to add there? I know I went through it in our meeting, so I figured I'd just jump in, but I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything.
No, Mr. Charter, you killed it. The only thing I would say is that 60 plus truancy elimination plan meetings, we are absolutely expecting that number to be way lower next year. But at the same time, we are very proud of that process and proud of what we've been able to accomplish in terms of student attendance using that process.
And that's it from us, Dr. Stoker.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the elementary school student handbook?
The only note I have, Dr. Stoker, I'm sorry, in the district office personnel, I know you're going to be updating it, but are we going to add our second SPO added to that, or are we just leaving Officer Nass as the main SPO? Just curious. I'll be honest, I didn't look through all of them, but I don't know if we're going to update that or not.
Sure. What we've done in the past is we've kept that page for administration. So we just had listed there just the administrators that were in the district office.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the elementary handbook? Hearing none, do we have permission from the board members present to move this to the board meeting on Monday for a vote?
This is Gary. My answer is yes to that, but the only question I have, is there someplace else in the handbook, though, as a staff member, so that people who are looking at that would know that we have a officer other than Mr. Naus? Is that listed somewhere else? Would he be listed under any kind of staff or personnel at all?
I'll defer to the elementary principals. I know we have other staff listed in different places. I'm not certain. Is he in there somewhere?
I don't believe he is. I don't know, Mr. Senator, if you see that we put him anywhere else. I mean, I'm not sure if other buildings have him placed elsewhere. We'd be happy to comply with that. We just didn't have one.
I think it would be wise to include him in all of our handbooks somewhere, because if parents or anybody else are looking at staff or wanting to know, we don't want them to know we have someone who we don't put out his or her name for.
Sure, and if it's the recommendation of the board to put it in that section where we have district office personnel, we can certainly do that.
I do not suggest doing it there because I think it is administration, but I do think it needs to be even as a separate entity of in the staff somewhere.
Okay.
We can certainly, Dr. Stoker, embed it within our safety section. It wouldn't be highlighted in a way in which, we sort of, list those police officers or their school police officers. But if you'd like, we can embed that there, and we can sort of give language and share it with Dr. Stoker and Mr. Link, and, they can sort of share it with you and let us know if that's how you envision it.
I think it should be somewhere, anywhere appropriate would be okay with me. Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm imagining that the middle school handbook and the high school handbook are going to be similar, because we did try to make that consistent across the board. So we'll go back to the drawing table this week, and across all of those handbooks, we'll add some language to include the second SPO in a section that makes sense across the board so it's consistent. So with that change noted, knowing that will come back with that change on Monday night's board meeting, do we have permission from the board members to move that forward?
Ms. Martineau?
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Heckman?
Yep.
Sounds good, Dr. Stoker. Elementary is good to go.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you to Mr. Schneiderite and Mr. Pine for putting that handbook together and making those changes. Next up, we have the middle school handbook. So I will hand that over. Oh, I don't know why it's not clicking on that. Let's try that again. There we go. It's taking a little while to load. Mrs. Chamberlain, I will hand it over to you at this point.
Okay. For the cover, we did a little. There was a little switch with the PAC logo with NLMS logo. So it's the deletion of the PAC acronym from under the logo. So that's the first thing. And the table of contents, of course, are going to be updated after final review. On page 5, there was a deletion of PAC verbiage. I think that's okay. And then on page 6, of course, updated the office staff personnel list. Page 7, we added the calendar. Page 15, we deleted a statement regarding not offering summer school, because right now we are. So we had it in there that there was no summer school program. And then also on page 15, they added the new PBIS description and logos that kind of go with CFES. Mr. Hauser put all of that in there, and it's also a continuation. It's the start, so it can be continued through with the high school. On page 18 to 22, was the addition of the Chromebook technology language from Mr. Hill. And then on page 29, we deleted the tiered discipline description, and we replaced it from page 29 to page 33. I couldn't get the 33 out. We replaced the tiered discipline with a 4-level system. It's almost the exact same kind of description that is used in the high school handbook. So again, with continuity and consistency with the high school. And then on page 33, there was an added description for lunch detention. And that is all the changes I have noted. We will add, once there is consistency for adding where we're going to add Officer Jones, then we'll just add that as well.
Any questions on the middle school handbook? Okay, not hearing any. Do we have permission from the board members present to move this handbook forward? Again, as Mrs. Chamberlain said, and the board member said, with the SPO being added this week, so that you'll have that change in there on Monday night.
Gary, yes.
Michelle Martineau, yes.
Mrs. Heckman?
Michelle Heckman, yes.
Sounds good. Dr. Stoker, that looks good to move ahead. Just a note so that the board does know, there is a note on that middle school handbook under the school police officer section, the very last page, where it does say we do employ 2 officers. So I don't know if that'll be consistent across the board or if we'll use names, but there is a note in that middle school one that I found. So thank you for looking into that and making them consistent.
Okay, thank you. And our last handbook this evening is our high school handbook. So I will open that and then hand things over to Mr. Velocity.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. We have some of the same type of changes that the other principals had indicated, that we have some personnel that have to be filled in. And as we go through the process of hiring between now and beginning of the school year, we will fill those in addition to adding Officer Jones to the appropriate place for the SPO. The only major change that we had is on page 57, and that is the technology section that Mr. Hill had given to all the principals to add to the handbook. I think this is the least amount of changes I think I have had here in 10 years. So Ms. Husak, I don't know if I had that language in there that Mrs. Chamberlain had as the second school police officer. I may have, but I don't recall. So I'm going to defer to you because you pointed that. Oh, okay, I was the one you
put me on the spot, Mr. Velocity. I see.
I'm sorry. I thought maybe you had it, but nonetheless, I know this is not the first time we've had 2 SPOs per se. So I think that's a good idea. One of the places that I had briefly looked at is that in the very beginning of the handbook, they're under location. It lists the address of the high school, but also lists the administration, lists myself, assistant principal, Mr. Geis. We possibly could put that there if it's agreed upon by the rest of the administrators. And that's it.
Any questions on the high school handbook?
I just have something to add. I've been sitting here lying in wait, watching about the school police officers and haven't said anything. I think maybe we should word it somehow as the Northern Lehigh School Police Department and then include both of our names. If you would want then to add additional for the administrative side to put me down for the Safe to Say Something, the Safety and Security Coordinator, I think that would be wise to word it that way.
I agree. Thank you, Frank.
So do I. That's a great suggestion.
And the good news is, Mr. Velocity, you have both officers listed in your handbook. Names and phone numbers.
I thought I did, but I didn't want to say it just in case I was wrong, but I appreciate the acknowledgement there.
Thank you, Officer Nouse. We'll try to follow suit then and get that into all 3 handbooks. Any other questions on the high school handbook? Hearing none, do we have permission from the board members present to move this to Monday night's board meeting for approval?
Gary, yes.
Michelle Martineau, yes.
Michelle Heckman, yes.
Sounds good, Dr. Stoker. Good to move it forward.
Thank you. So the last thing that we have under education this evening is Imagine Learning. Imagine Learning is an adaptive platform that we have been using in small groups within the district. So we've been using it in our ELDP program. We've been using parts of the ELA, parts of the math program in various spots. And it's something that we've kind of piloted and used with different groups, as I said. But it's something that we're looking to move forward with for our summer learning program because of how it is adaptive. So if we have students who may have learning gaps or who are struggling, what it does is it asks them questions in the initial assessment and then throughout as they're learning. And if they're answering those questions correctly, it continues to challenge them and move them up. If they are struggling with those questions, it drops them down to lower levels and actually gives them lessons that they need to fill in those gaps. So we think that this program would be extremely appropriate for our summer program, and it's something we're looking to move forward with for the school years as well. It is something we're looking to purchase with our ESSER money, and I did send out in the board update last week that we were looking at what the price of the program is. For 3 years, it is a $93,000 program. So that would be $31,000 for each school year, including the summer. So that would be an annual contract that we would have. And that's something that we're looking to pay for out of ESSER monies for learning loss. So that would be our ESSER 3 funds. We think that this program is good because there's also the ability for any students who are high achieving students and maybe need that extra push for enrichment. Again, this meets them at their level and will continue to push them, ahead of where their current level is. The nice feature that it does have, and some of our teachers have already begun to use, is that let's say we have our textbook and our curriculum that we teach, and we teach things out of order. So maybe we teach one concept in math before we teach something else. So let's say we teach chapter 4 before we teach chapter 2. What happens in Imagine Learning is we can actually go in and match up those particular skills or those chapters that we teach, and we can actually move them around in that program. So it will teach it in the exact order that we want it to be taught. And then again, it still fills in those gaps. So if a student is missing some skill, it will actually go and still adjust to those skills that are missing. So it's a really nice feature that we have. But I did want to just come back with the price because that was something that I wasn't able to bring back for last week. So again, we're looking at $31,000 per year. We currently use Study Island as a supplemental tool, and district-wide, we're paying $15,000 out of our district budget for that, around $15,000. So that's something we're actually looking to eliminate. So moving forward, that $15,000 will continue to come out of our budget, and then we would take the rest of that remaining funds for each of those years out of the ESSER fund. So it's not as big of a hit as $30,000 moving forward. It's just really that $15,000 that we're already paying plus whatever would be on top of that. And currently the way that this program works is there's a grant that's happening in the state. So the math program right now is actually being provided by a separate entity for free through this grant. So we're actually not really paying for the math program. It's the literacy program that's expensive for us to purchase. For the next 3 years, it would be $31,000 per year, $93,000 total. Some of that coming out of ESSER, some of that coming out of our current budget. And we would not switch that over because there's something called maintenance of effort where we can't offset or unbalance our budget. So we can't take everything that we have typically paid for in the past and supplant everything. So we need to make sure to continue to have that maintenance of effort. So that $15,000 will continue to come out of our district budget, and then we would pay the remainder out of ESSER. So I just wanted to bring that amount back, and also that program that we're looking to move forward with. If I hear from the board and you guys are on board with that, then we would actually look to order this as early as tomorrow so that we can have this up and running for a summer learning program, which starts on June 21st. So I will throw that out for any questions that anybody has.
Dr. Stoker, this is Gail. I just have a question on, I guess, the learning curve or what learning or teaching would need to be done for our teachers to be successful in making this program be successful to replace something like you said, like Study Island?
Absolutely. So currently we do have a few teachers who are using it. We have some people in-house that could help lead those professional development sessions, but we definitely know that we would need to do some sort of onboard training and to get everyone prepared to use this moving forward for the summer especially, but then also coming back in the fall. So coming back in the fall, we would be doing trainings. Some of those can be over the summer, some of those can be in August and our in-service days. But to get everybody up and running for this summertime, we do have onboarding days that are happening. And I did talk with the representatives from Imagine Learning who are willing to help us get our teachers up and running for this program. They've honestly been very supportive. I know that in our ELDP program, we've had them physically come into the building and just work with one of our teachers. They've come back in when we added a second teacher to the program. They're willing to just really send us any kind of professional development that we need. They're very supportive in that way, historically have been. And I think that they will continue to be. So yeah, we're hopeful that they can get us up and running and ready to go for the summer.
Thank you. And is this, just a clarification, K through 12 learning program or?
So it actually would apply K to 12. At the high school level, they do only have certain components. It doesn't extend to every subject at the high school level, but we'd be only looking to use it at this point K through 6. But there is possibility for us to use it beyond that as well. The licenses that we have would cover everybody that it would need to cover if we wanted to go expand that further.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Board members, just looking to give Dr. Stoker some direction, questions, concerns, thoughts on moving Imagine Learning forward for our students and staff?
Gary supports.
Michelle Martineau does too.
Ms. Heckman?
Nope, I'm good.
Sounds good. Dr. Stoker, it sounds like a great idea to change it up, move it forward. Sometimes it's always nice to get different views and change things after a few years. I know Study Island's been around for quite some time and done a lot of Study Island. So I'm looking forward to Imagine Learning.
Good to hear. And thank you everybody from the board for moving that forward. I will then have us process that tomorrow so that we can get everybody on board and ready to go with that as quickly as we can and be ready for the beginning of our summer learning series.
Dr. Stoker, this is Gary. Is there a great learning curve on both faculty and students with going from the one program to the other?
They're definitely different programs, but some of our students and some of our faculty have been using that, not very widespread, but certainly some people have been using it. Just like any platform, I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm confident in the providers of the program that the professional development they have will be very helpful. And like I said, they've been giving us individual support, not just group support or building-wide support, but they've been actually coming in individually to help out teachers as needed. I mean, they'll just sit with them for hours if they need to. So that we've been really lucky with that.
Good. Thank you. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we did a really good job this evening. We actually didn't put any policy on because we weren't sure how long all of the handbooks and everything would take. So I think we moved through pretty quickly, and I appreciate everybody putting the effort and time in and all of the good questions that we've had this evening. So do we have any public questions, Mr. Hill?
We do not have any questions.
Okay, then Mrs. Husak, I'll hand it over to you if you'd like to conclude this agenda.
Sure, I just have one question, comment, based on some of the information that you guys had sent out, Dr. Stoker, in regards to the AR learning for reading. I'm glad to see that coming back. I think that was a accountability aspect and a fun activity at some level for the students to see that. I loved what the teachers did in the elementary with Class Dojo and posting when they met those goals. It gave those students a little bit of extra push to do that. So I'm glad to see some changes being made of things that we've tried and things that we're changing and moving forward and not staying the status quo. So thank you to the administration and the direction that we're giving to keep things moving differently and not just staying a status quo. So I did want to bring that up, that there will be a change. I don't know if the community knows that as something that maybe the board would know or the administration, but I am glad to see some of those programs coming and some of those programs going and moving in and out and changing it and keeping it live. So thank you for continuing to work through those opportunities that are out there.
Thank you, Mrs. Husak. And I don't want to steal Mr. Pine's thunder, but I don't know if there's anything that he'd like to add about that. I know we're looking to bring that back, certainly to get the love of reading happening in our students again. And even our middle school is starting to look into that as well. In the past, it's been very structured, very grade oriented. We're trying to make it something, like you said, accountable, like that there's an accountability piece to that, but that kids are reading for the enjoyment of reading as well. So I don't want to steal Mr. Pine's thunder, but is there anything you'd like to say, Mr. Pine?
I mean, you pretty much caught it there. I mean, it was something that getting rid of it this year off of as a line item just made sense budget-wise, because we weren't going to have as many books going in and out of students' hands. We thought that might be a long-term thing because there were ways that we were running it that, after we really thought about it, weren't necessarily conducive to supporting students and supporting families as independent readers in the way that we desired. I think really moving forward with it as a communication tool and as something that we can all share in and figuring out what is good for students as readers while also allowing them to independently choose, I think it's going to serve us really well.
And I think as a community outreach, something to the Slatington Library might be able to help too. I know you guys utilize them a lot too, but that connection and that communication with that group of individuals who run that library is just, they're so powerful. So I hope that we continue as even allowing our students who are in walking distance of that library to go in and share some of those valuable resources that are out there. It's really important. So thanks for bringing that back. I think it'll be a really great tool and a great event coming again. Thank you. So I'm just going to reach back out. Just board members, any other comments? Mr.
No.
Hill, any other updates from anybody on the outside?
Nope, there's no questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Fedorcha. I believe I might have cut you off. Sorry about
No,
that.
I said no, there was nothing. And I just want to say positive changes and everything else is always good. And I like to see that. Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, then I will wrap up our Education and Policy Committee meeting this evening. Just a reminder that we do have off for the month of July, and we are back in session August 2nd at 5:30. We'll determine at that time if we'll be Zoom or in person. We'll see what the summer brings. But keep tuned, and we look forward to what the fall 21-22 school year looks like. So I will go ahead and close the Education Policy meeting and pass it over to Ms. Martineau for the Community Relations agenda.
Before you do that, Mr. Zach, I would just like to make a comment to the board members. I just sent out an email to all of you that we're looking for 2 board members to serve on the committee for the interviewing of the principal. If any of you are available, please consider it and get in touch with Mr. Link, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha.
And thank you. So we're opening the Community Relations Committee. This committee meeting is also being recorded at NLSD for You Media on YouTube. We have one item on the agenda that I can see today, and that is Mrs. Dada and Officer Noss presenting the threat assessment team mandate and recommendations for Navigate 360.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, most of you have probably read in the update that we've been looking at some threat assessment platforms and trainings. There is a new law that we need to have a threat assessment team in place by the start of the 2021-2022 school year. The state is recommending that we stay with a CSTAG model, which is the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines. When I looked at, Officer Ness and I talked about multiple options. There is the IU is doing a training, which is mostly modules, and then an in-person training for approximately 2 hours. The state has just released, I believe it's 11 modules. They are all online. There is no in-person training, and it is a train the trainer model. So I went through the first 5 modules to look at it, to get a good feel of what it was like. It would be either Mr. Nouse or myself or the school counselors or school psychologists providing that training to the threat assessment team. Or there is a more comprehensive threat assessment training, which is through Navigate 360. This one has been worked collaboratively with Dr. Dewey Cornell, who is actually the developer of CSTAG, and there are 5 or 6 modules, and then you meet with a team that has been trained by Dr. Cornell, and you talk about process and what it would look like when we have a referral for a threat assessment to be conducted. This training has proven already to lower suspension rates. Its racial discrepancies reduced or are absent. Counseling is used more often. There's more positive school culture. It goes through different areas. So there's an evaluate and a triage. It goes through conducting the investigation, implementing, the most important part is implementing and monitoring the safety plan that we put in place for each one of these students. There is also a platform that goes with this that allows us to then track and monitor from school to school, ongoing cases, if a student has multiples, and then we can pull data and abstract data from the whole district to report upon. When we went through all of this, the total cost for this was $7,160 for the training of 12 members. The plan is to have one team in each school consisting of guidance, an administrator, and the building principal. There is also then the platform cost. So the one-time cost of $7,160 is at the bottom of what's being projected. That's a one-time cost. We would not see that again. At the top, you're going to see $2,736. That would be the portion for the CSTAG platform. Mr. Nouse can talk to the $4,104, which is through his ALICE training. So if you want to talk about that, Frank.
Sure. So ALICE is something that we implemented in all the buildings.
Can you mute your microphone? Thank you.
ALICE is something that we've implemented in all the buildings since last year and has grown exponentially with all of our building administrators. We've actually conducted full evacuations of our students. Our students take it very seriously in learning. And Dr. Stoker, if you can go actually back to that finance page, I wanted to, touch on that. So what Ms. Dada was talking about is there's a one-time subscription fee for the safety and wellness suite. ALICE bases it on, Navigate 360 Prepared now, they changed the name, bases it on our student population. So that's where that price comes from. We have approximately 1,520 students. It is a one-time fee of $4,104. What this is going to do is allow our staff to become educated more in ALICE. They're going to update and train on new ways, new methodologies, any type of incidents that may have occurred, what we learned from those incidents. And this platform is really remarkable because it makes it very difficult for us to track the staff that has been trained, has not been trained. So when they log on and they complete the actual online training, it will keep a record of that. And every year it will also keep a record of that. And we can incorporate that into our professional development. So, and I am also there as an ALICE certified instructor to answer any additional questions, look at any ideas that anybody may have. I know Mr. Pine, Mr. Snyder-Wright, they're always running ideas by me for things that staff come out with questions for them. And I try to answer them as best as I can. And we work together. I know Mr. Hauser as well. He has a lot of ideas, and it is just a wonderful tool for our students. And that's all I have.
So if I can just add that what we are talking about is funding this through the PCCD grant. And I guess we're looking for permission to move forward.
Are you saying all the funds that are needed for all those areas are under that grant? There's no district funds that are going to be needed?
Correct, Mr. Fedorcha. This is the PCCD competitive grant that we've had for a couple of years that ends in February of 2022. We had some things that were originally scheduled in there that we don't believe that we're going to fulfill. So there's money that is in there that was originally for some of this, but then there's also some additional monies that we can put towards this. So we would just do a modification to that grant, and we would be able to cover this instead.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any ongoing costs beyond this initial total cost we see here?
So the understanding is after we have a team set up, we would then kind of absorb the training ourselves at that point. So if someone retires or moves on, we would bring in another team member, and then we would absorb that training by the trained team members.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, Mrs. Dada, I know you might have touched on this. This is not the IU training, is that correct?
Correct. The IU training, right, it has modules, and then it has an in-person, but it does not have a platform that goes with it. So there's no ability to track. And this platform also has all of the questions. So if we have someone that's more thinking about suicide, the questions from CSTAG are already embedded in this program.
And also, I'd like to just piggyback, sorry, to Ms. Dada, that Navigate 360 has assured us that this will supersede any of the state trainings and programs, and it will be all in conjunction with the state programs, but also surpass them. So we will be able to provide our staff with much better training than simply going online and taking a couple PowerPoints and saying we're certified and trained.
Do we know what other districts are doing? Are they using something similar? Or are they using a different program?
Well, to my defense on the ALICE side, I know there are several districts that use the ALICE acronym and Navigate 360 with ALICE. As far as the threat assessment, this is brand new that the state is requiring us to roll out. So there's not much data backing this up for us to be able to say that there's other districts using it. I think once other districts find out, like Ms. Dada said, that there's a platform and that it can be tracked and logged, it makes it significantly easier for that district. And I think they're going to go with Navigate 360. I do know in our meetings that it is certainly widespread in other states, and this is new for Navigate 360. But it is definitely being used in several other states for the threat assessment planning, except theirs is going to be a little bit different because they have to tweak it from the other states to conform to Pennsylvania's standards.
So some of the other districts are using the IU for the training. The difference is the IU doesn't have this platform that then goes along with the training. So how they're going to track it, if they're just going to track it internally, I'm not sure. I haven't gotten that far because everybody's just scrambling for training right now.
I think this is a good format, especially that it's coming from the state and we're getting involved with the state, which also makes it easier for us when the state makes any changes or any kinds of information that comes down. It's going to come directly to us from the state, which is a good idea. I like it.
So you're asking us to move it to the board meeting Monday?
Yes.
Board members?
And then just a quick question. You said that this was coming out of grant money. Is that correct?
Correct. Go ahead, Tanya, sorry.
This is the PCCD competitive grant, that larger, like $360,000 grant that we got. We have multiple years to spend that, but it is coming due in February of next year, and we do have some monies that are unspent that we can certainly put towards that.
So then what happens, would we build that into the budgets moving forward after the PCCD grant is expired? And then how does that affect budgets moving forward? This group might not know. We might have to, I say okay as long as the finance group is okay with the funding of it. So my input is to go ahead and move it forward, maybe put it on the agenda for the finance group to review as well.
Gary agrees.
And we can certainly talk about it again on Wednesday evening as well.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to touch base with the finance committee, and then, you know, if everybody is in agreement, move it forward.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions for Officer Noss or Mrs. Dutta or Dr. Stoker? Okay, Mr. Hill, do we have anything from the community?
We do not have any questions.
So if there is no objection, the next meeting of the Community Relations Committee won't be until Tuesday, September 7th. And that, again, that's Tuesday, not Monday, because of Labor Day. And that will be following the regular Education Policy Committee also on a Tuesday. And with that, I'd like to conclude the agenda for tonight. And wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Sounds good. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Stay cool.
Graduation.